Welcome to Freedom Forum 1 on this sunny, warm day in South Louisiana. Okay, told my first lie for the night. But anyways, we got winter early. No fall. We didn't have fall. We just had summer and winter. So let's start off tonight. Last night I was in New Orleans, met these gentlemen at a Tea Party meeting in New Orleans, and they gave me a nice little prayer to read for y'all tonight. So let's do that now. Our Lord told Senior St. Pierre, "Oh, if you only knew what great merit you acquire by saying even once, admirably is the name of God in the spirit of reparation of blasphemy. Eternal Father, I offer thee the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ and all the instruments of his holy passion, that you may put division in the camp of your enemies, for as your beloved Son has said, a kingdom divided against itself shall fall. May God arise and let his enemies be scattered, and let all those who hate him flee before his face. May the thrice holy name of God overthrow all their plans. May the holy name of the living God split them up by disagreements. May the terrible name of God of eternity stamp out all their godlessness. Amen." Well, it's been a very interesting couple of weeks. Everything going on around the country. Nobody knows who voted for who and who didn't vote and who legally voted and who didn't vote at all. But anyways, I'm going to start off tonight. I have some good friends, a group of guys that are seeking donations for veterans care packages. They do this every year. They go to all the veterans' homes in quite a wide area. Do this on their own. Nobody's paying them. They have a shortage of donations for the veteran care packages and has a group of volunteers asking for help. For 13 years, the Acadiana Area for Veterans delivers care packages to veterans. However, the group is seeing a shortage in donations this year that helps supply the packages. We bring these care packages to them, showing that they're not forgotten, and we appreciate them, Robert Laban with the group said. If we do not get these items, I won't have nothing to bring them. A lot of these veterans look forward to us coming to them because a lot of them don't get visitors all year long. And that's true. I visit the Jennings Veterans Home quite a bit. They're looking for hygiene items, clothes, blankets, and more for the veterans. The group will be delivering packages until December 1st. If you'd like to make a donation, you can visit one of the drop-off locations in Lafayette. Those locations include Crown and Anchor Tattoos on 5905 Johnson Street, and believe it or not, the Louisiana DOTD in Lafayette, 428 Hugh Wallace Road. Also, you can call 337-356-4579 for more information. That's 337-356-4579 for more information. I'll read that in the second hour also. A lot of different things going on. What I'm going to do is run through some real quick items that we probably won't spend a lot of time on. Louisiana, this is from WWL. Louisiana may have spent $85 million on ineligible Medicaid recipients. Go figure. I would have never thought that. Auditors determined, based on the sample taken, that the state may have spent between $61.6 million and $85.5 million for Medicaid recipients who didn't qualify at some point during the Medicaid coverage. Louisiana Department of Health Department Secretary Rebecca G. said her agency has new technology in place effective Tuesday that will increase the accuracy of the eligibility decisions in the future. Legislative Auditor Darrell Papera report said the auditors used Louisiana Workforce Commission data to evaluate a sample of Medicaid recipients from the Medicaid expansion population. We found that the LDH current process of using wage data as application and renewal to determine the eligibility of Medicaid expansion population is not sufficient. Go figure. Auditors determined based on the sample taken that the state may have spent 61 to 85 million for Medicaid recipients who didn't qualify. The report said at least 20 other states indicated on, their verification plans that they check for change recipient wages on an interim basis. During the period sampled, the agency relied too much of self-reporting from the recipients. The report G said the agency's new automated system will be able to access Louisiana workforce commissions as well as the other wage data to make eligibility decisions. The department's process for determining Medicaid eligibility has been very manual and time-consuming process based on income information by applicants. This is not surprising. I know that Landry asked for some time, speaking of Landry, last night I had the opportunity to hear Billy Mungesser talk, and it was pretty interesting some of the things he's been able to accomplish while he's been lieutenant governor. And he's really kind of expanding the lieutenant governor's office. He has tackled things. I know that he mentioned some things about the monuments in New Orleans, and he's had a discussion with the new mayor. The parks are being brought back up to the level that they should. He's caught a lot of expenditures, saving the state a lot of money. He's had some success with private enterprise entering into the state parks. And he said this last summer that 3 of the state parks for a long time finally made a profit. So some of the things he's doing are working out really well. Well, I got dry mouth here. Excuse me. Okay, this came out today. A.G. Landry to run for re-election, not governor. The Republican Attorney General ended speculation about his 2019 election plans in an interview Wednesday with the Associated Press. The Louisiana Attorney General Jeff Landry says he'll run for re-election rather than challenge Governor John Bel Edwards in the next governor's race. The Republican Attorney General ended speculation about his 2019 election plans in the interview. Landry said he'll seek a second term as Louisiana's chief legal officer after raising the profile of the job and becoming one of the state's most prominent GOP elected officials. Landry says he can best serve the state by continuing in his current job. The decision removes his name from the list of possible GOP contenders running against the Democratic Edwards. Baton Rouge businessman Eddie Risponi has announced his entrance into the governor's race, while U.S. Senator John Kennedy says he'll make a decision December 1st. So people can stop asking Jeff if he's going to run for governor. I have bits and pieces stuff here. We've been talking a lot about what the city of Lafayette's doing with sustainability and that. And here's an article. It's really interesting. The United Nations wants a one-world government in less than 12 years. We ought to kick the United Nations out of the U.S. In the 1960s, an informed but naive undergraduate, I was walking across the campus of the University of Pennsylvania with the chairman of the chemistry department, Professor Charles C. Price. He told me that he was president of the United World Federalists and asked if I knew what that organization was. When I said I did not, he replied that they believed that one world government would grow out of the United Nations. Now I want you to think about when that conversation took place. In 1960. 1960s. To me, the United Nations was a benevolent organization dedicated to pressing the world community in the direction of peace and to be operating charitable programs to help the struggling, impoverished peoples of the world. I imagine the UN is kind of a united way on a worldwide scale. Wow. How would Professor Price's vision of a new world government emerge? Although there was a socialistic thread in its founding document, the United Nations was formed based on the vision of human rights. Whoa. Universal Declaration of Human Rights, UDHR, which placed the concept rights at the forefront for progress of the world body and rights the mainstay be uplifting. Human freedom and the dignity of the individuals. The UDHR document followed many amazing documents that presented rights at the central concept of the post-feudal war, the English Declaration or Bill of Rights of 1689, the Declaration of Independence with its importance and forceful assertion of inalienable natural rights, the powerful U.S. Bill of Rights enacted in 1791, the French Declaration of Rights of Man and Citizen. The word rights appears in almost every sentence of the 1869 Word UN document. The document is literally obsessed with rights, and one must assume they are likewise obsessed with the rights suggested as manifested in the United Kingdom, the U.S., and France. In 2015, 70 years after their original rights-based document, the UN took a giant step towards the global government that was only hinted at in their first organizing document. They issued a document entitled Transforming Our World. How have we heard that? Transforming Our World. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. My friend Mark would really like that statement. The 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We hear that a lot in the documents, which I'll talk about later, right here in the city of Lafayette. This document had 91 numbered sections of the UN's Program for World Government. The UDHR is only referenced once in the entire document. Unlike the original mother document that was under 1,900 words, this document is 14,883 words. What is meant by the term sustainable? Here we go. The most often quoted definition comes from the UN World Commission on Environment and Development. Catch that? Environment and development. Sustainable development is development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. The earlier ideas and ideals of rights, freedom, equality, justice are subsumed under meeting of needs and explicit environmentalism, which emphasizes preventing the depletion of scarce planetary resources, of which we have plenty. Of course, the takeoff is the Marxist axiom that society should be organized around the idea of from each according to his ability to each according his needs. Thus, Marxism is implicit in sustainability. Let me repeat that. Marxism is implicit in sustainability. But is nuanced by its alliance with seemingly scientific adjustments and goals related to environmentalism. A technical jargon is welded to Marxists intentionally to produce the sense of fitting and modern progress. Transforming Our World document is cast in a stream of consciousness of pious gratitudes for utopian future. It's an outsized utopian dream. 5 of the 17 items pertain to environment. There are goals for cities, for women, for poor, even for life under the water. Absolutely no sphere of human activity is exempt from control by the UN. Let me ask you a question. How comfortable would you feel if the United States of America was controlled by the UN? The key word of the course is no longer rights, except the oblique reference in Article 19. In fact, the writer did not see the words rights even once in the document, even though the word appeared in practically every sentence of the original UN document. The one-worlders of the 50s, 60s are now in the UN driver's seat, and they have made their move. The overlay of Marxist talk meeting needs has moved to center stage. The UN has assigned itself a time frame for moving forward in its plan for planetary hegemony. A projected transformation detailing yet another details in the New World Order of environmental responsibility and significant reduction of poverty and hunger never speaks to the practical dimensions of vast manipulations. They never discuss incompetence and corruption, their positions through terrorism and bribery. They never discuss the twin brothers of venality. The document portrays a sincere world where all those in power want to help humanity despite the daily evidence of selfishness, corruption, murders, intent, devilish manipulations, thefts, personal immoralities, hatred, and utter depravity of governmental leaders in every country in the world. The sustainability ideal is not wedded to a Christian worldview. Let me reread that. The sustainability ideal is not wedded to a Christian worldview instead of individual liberty. Is submerged in a scientifically determined collectivism mindset with final decisions in the hands of the devilish, all-knowing big brothers. Big brothers watching. The relevance of the individual is downplayed. It is being put forward by the UN that is no longer pro-Western, a much larger body than existed in 1945. Will you accept it, or is it time, more than ever before, to begin rethinking our membership in the unsustainable body? Very interesting article. And we have a lot of discussion in this area where you hear the word sustainability. I read this article a couple weeks ago. UN plans to control your life. Pretty interesting. H.R. 193, the American Sovereignty Restoration Act, would end participation and funding in the global body of the United States. This bill to get the U.S. out of the United States was first introduced by Representative Ron Paul in 1997. It has introduced in every Congress since. It's very important for it to be introduced again in Congress in 2019. For those who appreciate the freedoms the U.S. Constitution guarantees and the constitutional republic, and most of those clowns in D.C. call us a democracy, they really need to be educated. I'll take the time and go up there and teach them. The Founding Fathers established, and who wish to stay free from the UN clutches, it's time for the right of action to expose their New World Order plot. You know, I had a local parish president here tell me that the UN document create was not a UN format, but in the create document, 5 times it mentions the UN format. The opposition is fierce, and many, the swamp, led the left, George Soros, the elites, major mainstream media conglomerates, the deep state, the Council on Foreign Relations, and many other workers are working behind the scenes to make sure that big government continues to creep into our lives. Even though the big pockets and vision of those pushing for a new world order seem all powerful, they are lacking one crucial aspect in their fight. And it's something I talk about all the time. The truth. And what is the truth? That even though the United Nations may seem like an organization working for peace, it is not a friend to freedom. Plus, it doesn't solve the problems it sets out to fix. That's not all the article, but it's enough of it. See, they are, with that one world group, and you have all these people pushing for climate change. I mean, how many times I went to a conference in New Orleans, and I keep falling back to that, and I learned a lot about CO2 and a whole other education of what things in the climates. The climate changes. I watched the thing on, I'm not sure whether it was the Weather Channel, the guy that actually started the Weather Channel, did a documentary on the climate. And the climate does change. It goes through cycles, whether it's a 50-year cycle, a 5-year cycle, a 100-year cycle, a 1,000-year cycle. The atmosphere and everything change, and they go through a routine. You know, from the beginning of time to now, the CO2 levels have actually lowered. And it's not environmentally unsafe. You need CO2 to grow things. I like this. An Australian Prime Minister advisor says climate change is UN-led ruse to establish new world order. What I just read. Climate change is a hoax developed as part of the secret plot by the United Nations to undermine democracies and take over the world. The top advisor to Tony Abbott, Australia's Prime Minister, has warned. Maurice Newman, the chief business advisor to the Prime Minister, said the science showing links between human activity and the warming climate was wrong, but was being used as a hook by the UN to expand global control. This is not facts or logic, it's about a new world order under the control of the UN, he wrote in The Australian. It is opposed to capitalism and freedom and has made environmental catastrophism a household topic to achieve. Born in Guildford, England, and educated in Australia, Mr. Newman, a staunch conservative and former chairman of the Australian Stock Exchange, has long been an outspoken critic of the climate change science. He was appointed chairman of the government's Business Advisory Council by Mr. Abbott, who himself is something of a climate change skeptic and once famously described climate change as an absolute, and we can't say that on the air, a comment he later recanted. In his comment piece described by critics as a wacko, Mr. Newman said the world has been subjected to an extravagance from climate catastrophes for close to 50 years. It is a well-kept secret, but 95% of the climate models we are told prove the link between human CO2 emissions and catastrophic global warming have been found, after nearly 2 decades of temperature status, to be in error. The real agenda is concentrated political authority. Global warming is the hook. Ego catastrophists have captured the UN and are extremely well funded. They have a hugely powerful ally in the White House. Environmental groups and scientists described by Mr. Newman as a crazed conspiracy theorist, and some called on him to resign. His anti-science fringe views are indistinguishable from those made by angry trolls on conspiracy theorem forums, said the Climate Change Council. Professor Stephen climate change scientist told the Australian Financial Review. There are bizarre comments that would be funny if they did not come from Mr. Abbott's chief business advisor. The article was written by Mr. Newman to coincide with a visit by Christiana Figueres, the UN climate change negotiation, who has urged Australia to reduce its reliance on coal. Australia is one of the world's biggest emitters of carbon emissions per capita. Since his election in 2013, Mr. Abbott has established the Labour's carbon tax, scaled back renewable energy targets, and appointed skeptics to several significant positions. Again, they just keep throwing this stuff at us. In a little while, I'm going to get into a couple of really good subjects. But I'm kind of hitting and missing here on some different things that are going on. You know, when you sit back and you look at all the crap and crud that's going on in our governments, all levels, city, state, federal, and you look at people that are in powerful positions. I mean, you have Maxine Waters that says first she wants to take out President Trump, then she's going to take out Pence. What I don't understand is that if I said that stuff or put it in writing on Facebook or one of the social medias, I wouldn't be sitting here at this desk talking on this show. I'd be in jail. Never be seen again. Probably for the rest of my life. But these people run around making threats, telling people to mess with people in the restaurants and everything. And nothing happens to them. And I'm going to get after that in a little while when we talk about some stuff going on in Florida and Texas and all over the place on this voter crap. I'm going to read you the 18 U.S. Code 2385, advocating the overthrow of a government. Do you think, and it's mind-boggling, I mean, this first paragraph will blow you away. It says, whoever knowingly or willfully advocates, abets, advises, or teaches the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying the government of the United States or the government of any state, territory, district, or possession thereof, or the government of any political subdivision therein by force or violence, or by the assassination of any officer of any such government, or whoever with intent cause the overthrow or destruction of any such government, prints, publishes, edits, issues, circulates, sells, distributes, or publicly displays any written or printed matter advocating, advising, or teaching the duty, necessity, desirability, or propriety of overthrowing or destroying any government in the United States by force or violence or attempts to do so. I think there's about 4,000 or 5,000 things that I've seen in the last 2 years that probably fit into those first two paragraphs. Now here's the really good part. This is a U.S. code. Whoever organizes or helps or attempts to organize any society, group, or assembly of persons who teach, advocate, or encourage the overthrow or destruction of any such government by force or violence, or becomes or is a member of or affiliates with any such society, group, or assembly of persons knowing the purposes thereof shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both, and shall be ineligible for employment by the United States or any department or agency thereof for the 5 years next following his conviction. If two or more persons conspire to commit any offense named in this section, each shall be fined under this title or imprisoned not more than 20 years or both, and shall be ineligible for employment by the United States or any department agency thereof for 5 years next following his conviction. You think any of this applies to Cory Booker or heaven knows all the rest that have made threats? The Antifa attack. I mean, they went to what's-his-name's house, and his poor wife was the only one home, and she had to hide in a closet in her house because they were banging on the door. Tucker Carlson's house was under attack. They destroyed, damaged things. So far, I have not heard that one person got arrested. As used in this section, the terms organizes, and organize with respect to any society, group, or assembly of persons include the recruiting of new members, the forming of new units, excuse me, and the regrouping or expansion of existing clubs, classes, or other units, such society or group or assembly of persons. I made the comment in public. None of this stuff is going to stop till they start arresting people. What happened to the rule of law? There you go. What happened to the rule of law? I made before. If I put something even remotely close to what these people said, I guarantee you a black SUV will pull up in front of my house. I'll be put in jail and arrested and taken to court. But because groups like Antifa and stuff attack people all over the place. Portland, Oregon, the mayor says it's okay for them to disrupt traffic. Excuse me, they're breaking the law. And the police force is told to just stand down. I don't get it. This is the United States of America, and we are ruled by a constitutional republic. And rule of law. Rule of law has just disappeared. Totally disappeared from our way of life. You have to be fearful. Veterans, older veterans getting beat up by these people. Nobody gets arrested. I don't get it. Absolutely don't get it. And you know what? Some of this stuff is paid. Why is George Soros running around in this country when we know he distributes tons of money to disrupt this country? He's already said he hates America and he wants to see it destroyed. I don't get it. Right there, I read the code. I just read you the code. And that applies to 95% of what some of these elected officials say and do and threaten the president and all the people and, reporters that don't agree with what they think. Actually, they don't know what they think. They're only out there. And I saw a picture of the guy had things in his nose and his ears and lips and all that stuff. And he blamed Trump because he couldn't get a job. Like can tell you, you wouldn't even get an interview with me. This is the stupidity of what's going on today. I don't think the young people today, they need to go spend a month in Venezuela. Send them down there with a ticket, no money, and let them work their way back to the United States. I bet they'd change their mind about socialism. People down there are starving. And in several other countries. Look at the atrocities in Cuba. We don't hear nothing about it. Why is that? Because the mainstream media doesn't cover it. Everybody's all over Trump, and I'll agree sometimes Trump needs to tone it down. But he has a passion for America. This country is the greatest country to live in, period. There's a lot of things that we've proven right here in this city. Enough for that rant. And then we have, I don't know how this guy still has a job. And I've met him and I've talked with him. Louisiana Voice, make it stop. Iberia sheriff hit with $122,000 500 judgment for 2015 pepper spraying and beating of a hand-cut prisoner. How many times have we heard that out of Iberia? If it's an adverse court judgment, it must be Iberia Parish, right? And if it's Iberia Parish, it must be the office of Sheriff Louis Echo. Right again. Echo, who has already been hit with enough judgments to pay for the entire Iberia Parish courthouse, has just been tagged again. Echo's office alone is responsible for judgments averaging more than $25,000 per month for every month of his 10 years in office. All of you who have a calculator, you can figure that out. The total has now zoomed past 3 million, surpassing much larger parishes like Orleans, Jefferson, Cato, and East Baton Rouge. What's at the bottom of this? The latest judgment signed by the 16th Judicial Court, Judge Lori Landry, on September 21st, awarded $122,500 to Brian Rowley, who was bounced around his jail cell like a ping pong ball in a whirlwind and doused with an entire can of pepper spray, all while handcuffed and conveniently out of sight of the jailhouse surveillance cameras. The judgment stems from an incident on February 24, 2015, when Riley was being fingerprinted by a female deputy, Lieutenant Rashida Ryan, who accused him of touching her in an inappropriate manner and proceeded to scream explicitives at Riley. That attracted the attention of Deputy Commissioner Jackson, whose response was described in the judgment as very deliberate. She retrieved a can of pepper spray and proceeded to a holding cell where Riley had been secured alone and handcuffed. Jackson promptly emptied the entire can of pepper spray. How many times have we read and heard about this in that jail with Louis Echo in charge? One announced candidate for the 2019 election is Tommy Romero, is a retired state trooper whose daughter is an assistant district attorney for the 16th Judicial Court. It is also rumored that another current state trooper, Murphy Myers, who is expected to retire, may qualify to run. Echo's predecessor, Sid Aber, a retired state trooper, was instrumental in disbanding the New Iberia Police Department, only recently reinstated after crime got completely out of control under Echo, a retired state trooper. Perhaps the time has come for voters in Iberia Parish to consider a candidate other than the retired state trooper for sheriff. It's not like troopers retire on pauper's pensions, so it can't or shouldn't be, that they actually need to additional salary, which for sheriffs in Louisiana averages more than $150,000 in annual salary, something approaching $200,000 after other perks. Before I left the house, another one of these came in. I didn't have time to print it for New Iberia. I find that there's all kinds of different things that I'm going through here. I know that you want to hear about Florida, and also I have a whole packet here on the charter, home charter amendment. There's really been a lot of things. There was a big meeting, the fleur-de-lis put on a meeting this evening with several speakers, one of them being Sheriff Garber. I would have loved to have been able to go. Here we go again. You know, he wants to add a half-cent sales tax to our sales tax here in the city of Lafayette. The sales tax that he's talking about that was paid in the unincorporated or parish areas, if I understand that correctly, and it was 1%. But we didn't pay that 1% sales tax. Just the unincorporated areas in the parish paid that. Now, he reduced it to a half a cent, and he wants it to encompass the city of Lafayette. So that now it covers the whole parish, which would increase it from 3 to 4 million, if I remember correctly. I didn't bring the paper with me, but to about 23 or 24 million dollars a year that he needs this money. You know, some people, including Mr. Robideau, got blamed for being the ones that basically caused those two taxes to fail in November. I'm going to put this out to Kevin Knockin. I praised him for the work he did in knocking out the deal with NextGen, and Mr. Terrio for writing the proposal to take care of that. When you do right, I'm going to let you know you do right. Well, Kevin, you need to wake up. You need to understand that the people of Lafayette Parish are sick and tired of tax increases. Joe Robideau didn't influence them. I didn't influence them. Michael Lunsford didn't. Mark Pope didn't. The people of this parish are sick and tired of every time they look at a ballot, there's 2 or 3 taxes on there. I have to live within the means in my household. But it seems that this council doesn't quite recognize that. It was unfair of you, Kevin, to attack other people. Wake up. The people don't want more taxes. They want more transparency, and they want you to do your job and live within the means that you get. I'm sorry, I got a real big problem. My total philosophy on taxes is no new taxes. I think that Garber is going to have a real hard time getting that half-cent sales tax passed. And right now, we're looking at the finances of that. You know what's going on here? It seems like I'm talking too much and my mouth is drying out. But I saw that attack in the newspaper, and that really upset me. To have the audacity to blame certain people. You need to look in the mirror. Council needs to look in the mirror. You can't just keep throwing taxes out. This deal here, what I'm going to talk about, probably in the second hour, the way it's going, this amendment thing, the last 2 days, I listened to Carol Ross, I listened to Andy Hebert, and tonight from 5 to 7 before I came here, I listened to a really good program put on by KPEL with Andy Hebert and Kevin Blanchard. And they discussed this. Kevin's for the changes to the charter, and Andy is not. And there were a lot of explanations. The show the other day, when Carol Ross with Andy Hebert, my head was spinning with all the stuff I learned. And I'm going to talk about that in the second hour. The first caravan of migrants has arrived at the border. This is what people have been waiting for me to talk about. We need to shut down the border. These people are not coming here to assimilate in our community. They're coming here. Some of them in there, a small percentage, may really be coming here because they want to work. How do you weed those out? You people that want open borders, how do we know who's coming in? I listened to Attorney A.G. Landry talk today on Moonker Fine. Him and Blake Miguez are on there. How do we know who's coming in here and what they're going to do? We don't. And it's a proven fact. I don't think Trump, I don't think anyone has a problem with people coming here and going the legal route. I know some people that are basically about my age that came here and went through the process and are American citizens today. And they're really upset about these people that just think they can walk in. I didn't bring it with me, but I have a paper that gives us statistics of how much money those people get versus us. We have children homeless. We have veterans homeless. Yet when an illegal enters this country, they call them undocumented. That's BS. In my eyes, BS. Undocumented. No, they're not undocumented. They're illegal. Period. Don't care what anyone says. They are illegal. If you cross that border and you didn't go through the proper process, you are illegal and should be returned to where you came from. Who organized all this stuff? Jeff Carrere, I guess that's how, I never can pronounce his name. He did a real good article here on caravans of migrants continuing to march to the border. Well, they aren't marching. They said the ones that arrived at Tijuana today came in 10 or 12 nice buses, coaches. Who paid for that? Someone else that was kind of stuck in the middle said they're well funded and well prepared and organized. What does that mean? It says, check it out here, shut down the border before it's too late. For decades, American presidents did nothing as the influx of illegal immigrants continued unabated. According to new research, 22 million illegal immigrants are in the United States today. They take jobs away from hardworking Americans and receive benefits from overburdened taxpayers. The incentives need to stop, and the border needs to be secured. You know, I always hear this, that, well, they come here and do jobs that Americans don't want to do. Here we go again. That's the ultimate. I'm going to tell you, the other side has learned how to use Marxism to the T. they have learned, they do. If you ever listen to someone criticize someone on the right, they describe themselves perfectly. But you tell a lie long enough, people believe it. Got to stop that. Here's an interesting article. It says, I'm a U.S. citizen living in Honduras, and here's what I think about the caravan. Since we said our vows 5 years ago, we have parented 11 orphaned and abandoned children and teens in the third world country in response to God's call on our lives. 7 still live with us and call us mom and dad. We intentionally live without air conditioning, television, high-speed internet, and without a washing machine or a dishwasher. The cinder block home we inhabit on the outskirts of our little rural Honduran town is less than half the size of the home which I grew up in the Texas suburbs. I am not involved in politics, but I like to present you a new perspective in regards to the current immigration crisis based on our daily life and experiences on the northern coast of Honduras. I speak fluent Spanish and live alongside Hondurans every day in the workplace and in the local community and in the most intimate corners of my own home. Although I will never be able to change the color of my skin or rewrite my cultural history, I do know and love the Honduran people and have lived in this culture my entire adult life. Life in Honduras, as many are press covering the current drama of the large caravans and other Central Americans parading to the U.S., many of us here in Honduras on the other end of the equation are deeply troubled as this wrong mindset affects many who are out of the area, feel very uncomfortable about the chaos, and many of the uneducated immigrants will thrust upon the United States and the way in which they have forsaken international laws and police barricades cannot be justified. Some indeed refugees seeking a legitimate asylum, but others simply fleeing generally difficult but not dire conditions, or have simply chosen what seems to be an easier route of escape. It's not impossible to forge a humble living in Honduras. Over 9 million Hondurans survive in this culture every day. Although it is true that much corruption, lack of opportunities, violence abound, there are heavy war taxes that gangs place on local businesses, making it very difficult to earn an honest living. If you don't pay the demanded rate each month, your life may be taken. Help us champion truth, freedom, and limited government and human dignity and support the stream. Many dignified Hondurans work the same professional jobs as Americans and earn about 1/10 of what an American earns. That was my experience as a college graduate, and my first job I had in Honduras as a bilingual school teacher. I worked 8 to 10 hours per day, 5 days per week, and earned the equivalent of $330 a month. Many Hondurans live off similar salaries, that kind of budget. Honduran youth who are on the front lines in Honduras have offered high-quality free education, character formation, and Living Waters Ranch School. We operate out of a rural homestead to over 100 at-risk Honduran youth in the past 5 years. More than half have walked out because they admittedly had no interest in studying or preparing for the future. This type of apathetic attitude is common among youth in our area. They are now vagabonds in our rural neighborhoods, zipping up and down gravel roads on their bikes and falling into traps that drugs, petty crimes, sexual promiscuity. Many of them decided to go no further than 2nd or 6th grade education. Many of these rogue teens whom we know and love personally seem to have enough money to buy junk food and show off a nice cell phone, but there are supposedly no funds for the important things in life. The caravan's effect. In just 2 weeks ago, a single father who had, good Lord, time flies when you're having fun, who had 3 children in our school, suddenly decided to withdraw from the family and join the illegal. While the dad continues marching onward to the United States, is this a better life he was hoping to forge for his children? There are many opposing views, but we respectfully stand firm in our belief that laws and protocols should be respected. It's possible to live an honest life in the Hondurans. You see, these people were promised some stuff, and I only got about 30 seconds. When I come back, I'm going to talk about Florida, and then I'm going to get into the amendments and what's going on with that. Truth about the foreigner. They embedded someone in that caravan, and the filmmaker embedded the migrant heading to the southern border, discussed what he found Tuesday night with Tucker Carlson. What we do know is that things cost millions of dollars, and I'll be back in about